What's going on, everybody? It's David Piatek with V Housing Education and Lourdes Fernando. Welcome to 2024. Happy New Year to everybody that's out there. Today, we're going to be talking about setting that vision for 24 around home ownership, what that looks like, and what are the steps that you really need to take in order to set yourself up for success? Because, right, Lourdes, there's a lot of things that go into that. And sometimes it could be like, hey, I'm already good to go to buy a place, or it can take 2 or 3 years, right? We've all experienced that in that process, and setting yourself up for success is critical. So, there's definitely going to be a lot of components that we talk about, but just to kind of give you a background, if you're new to joining us, is that VA Housing Education focuses on the veteran community and helping educate the military community around housing and everything that goes in between that, right? So that's kind of something new for 24, where, like, let's say this month we're focusing on budgeting and credit. And I also have Lourdes Fernando with me. She's a guru realtor. She military spouse, military. She's also Army veteran herself. I can't say more. She's awesome. She's helped clients across the country at least get connected with realtors, and has firsthand experience working with veterans and getting them to win contracts, right, Lourdes? Because it's kind of difficult out there at times to find that right blend of someone being able to make offers and win them. But I'll let you take it from there.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, David. So like you mentioned, I am a veteran, no longer a spouse. So just to be clear, but yeah, I've used the VA home loan, and I definitely know the importance of maintaining, good credit. Also budgeting. One of the bigger mistakes that we made moving here to Illinois is the taxes. When the taxes reassessed, it completely went out of our budget, and it caused a lot of issues. So definitely, I'm really excited about teaching this class today, because personally, I've gone through a lot of stress not being able to budget correctly. And that's one of the first questions that I do ask clients is, what is your budget? I don't care about your pre-approval. Well, I guess that's important. Pre-approval is important. However, budget, I think, is like the biggest component. And I'm really excited that we're going to be talking about that today, because it's very important, like step one. So yeah, I guess we can get right into it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a kind of the piece on that. And I'll give you guys my 2 cents. That's kind of what we're going to go back and forth with Lourdes today. Just kind of talking about some of the topics that we're seeing, maybe not too in depth, because we have a lot of live events we're going to be doing. And plus we do a lot of videos around very specific items, like let's say credit and budgeting, but we're going to kind of elaborate on those things today. Right. So the reason why you're here today and watching is just really getting a look for the housing market and what that's going to look like for 24. So Lourdes and I will kind of give us, we'll give our 2 cents on that, right, from a lending perspective and from a real estate perspective as well, right? The good news is that what should happen this year is that interest rates should be going down, right? Because the Fed has come out and said, hey, we're anticipating dropping rates 3 times. But just like anything with the government, you don't know what's really going to happen. They can change it in a heartbeat, and we can start a war in a heartbeat also, and that can kind of throw everything off, and then we can have a ton of changes. Right now, we're anticipating markets to go down. And what happens when rates go down? Values go up on properties. That's why we've been saying all along is that the people that took advantage of, can I say took advantage of higher interest rates? Because they were actually able to buy properties when people didn't want to buy them. And now they're able to refinance with an interest rate reduction refinance loan and get a much lower rate, but they locked in that equity, right? And like, that's the thing that a lot of people miss out on, which, it's kind of, it's not great, but at the same time, like, everyone's position is what it is, right? That's why you got to really understand that every market's going to be a little bit different. Most of the markets we come across, values go up, right? But anyways, some places are stagnant or going down. So it just, really depends on that perspective for that. But that's kind of where we're seeing trends. There's still plenty of people that buy every month. Lourdes and I, we did a video not too long ago. There's about 25,000 veterans a month that are buying homes or refinancing or doing a cash out refi. They're doing something, but it's mortgage related, which I still think is crazy. But again, like that stuff is still there, and we only see that in those numbers going up. And I think there's definitely some challenges when people have lower interest rates, but then they need to sell and buy, which kind of leads kind of to your piece, Lord. It's like, where do you see the market trending over 2024 from what we've seen for like the last 2 years, where it's like and then prior 2 years, it's been awesome. Like, where do we fall in for 24?
Yeah. So if the prediction, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that, if the interest rates do go down, we are going to start to see a lot of those buyers who took a pause because interest rates are too high and they could not afford the payments with these properties. So we went really, really, really high, and then interest rates peaked, and then they're qualifying. What they were able to qualify went down substantially. So many people exited the actual market at that time. And within the last 2 weeks, I'm not gonna lie, but my phone has been it's been ringing. So people are like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Like, I want to see this property. I want to see this property. Because I want to say a month, 2 months ago, we were close to 8%, David? We were really high up there.
Eight and a
And
half.
8.5. And now we are, today we're at a like 6.25, you said?
Yeah, roughly 6.25. But like, that's how much it changed. Like 2 weeks ago, it was you can get down to like 5.5.
And as far as like mortgage
Yeah.
payments, say on a $400,000 home, how much would that be?
You're putting me on the spot.
Difference.
Like, I got to get the. Well,
You
I mean,
got it.
the rate the rate difference is still going to be about $400. So
That's a
it's
lot.
still a significant amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, you'll be able to qualify for these properties again, and I've seen a lot of my buyers just fall off within the last couple of months because they could not meet those payments. They're like, oh my God, I can't afford to pay this, and it was completely different from the in the twos and the threes, and even in the fours, like the payment is skyrocketed, and then the taxes also have gone up. So we are seeing, particularly in the Chicagoland area, taxes in some areas increased over 200%. Every 3 years, you reassess the taxes. And then with the increases of valuation, the taxes go up. So that has played a big factor in it as well. So another thing that we have been seeing is that there's still not a lot of inventory on the market. And so we are seeing less and less people that are actually, there's not that much competition. So we are able to get some buyers some closing cost credits compared to in the past, where there's too many people submitting offers for property and we can't get closing cost credit. We are starting to drop terms, things like that. So right now, I feel like is a perfect time to buy. Like you said, you can always refinance in the future, and when the interest rates are lower, and still be able to get less competition. But when these interest rates go down, that's when the competition comes up.
Yeah. So effectively, you lose that. I'm waiting for rates to drop. And yeah, that's kind of the challenge with that whole piece. Yeah, because I know for $400,000 property, the payment was like 19, not even $500,000 mortgage payment at 2.25 was $1,900 a month. That same payment is like $4,000 a month. So yeah, definitely factors into that. And that the people that were, when the market was really low interest rates and very competitive, a lot of people decided not to buy even then because like, oh, it's too competitive. I don't want to get into this. They're overbidding. But just remember, a $500,000 property at a 2.25 interest rate, even if you overpaid $100,000, you would pay about $650,000 with interest. Today's market rates, you'd be paying about $1.4 million in interest, right? So the people that took advantage of it, yes, they might have overpaid, but then that automatically corrected itself and that value even went higher. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of that timing piece, right? Of, do you in 2024 buy a place? Like, is it the right time?
Mhm.
And I think it's a challenge to be able to tell someone like, yes, 100% do it or don't do it, because it all really factors into your financial piece, right? I am an example. I bought a place recently because I always tell people buy a place. This is the best, worst time to buy. And I had a client today call me and he's like, David, I saw your video. And I know you said it's the best, worst time because that's probably just because, that's what you do for a living. And I said, no, I'm like, I literally did it myself. Like, if it makes financial sense to do it, then execute, right? If you want, and remember, housing provides stability. No one's telling you your rent's going up or you can't do something. I mean, yes, you have to pay more in taxes, like you mentioned, but that's going to be something you're going to pay no matter what. But at least when you sell, like when it comes time to sell your home, in theory, you should have good equity in it, uh, and you've kept that home up to date with where it needs to be. So I think it just really depends on everyone's situation of what should you or shouldn't you do. I think at some point, yes, values are going to tap out, but there's still so many people out there with money that you still, Lourdes, are you seeing a lot of cash offers still?
Not
Not as many.
not as many cash
Oh, that's good.
offers. But the listings, the last couple listings I've had, they like the smaller price points. I've been seeing cash offers. So, but it's not as common as before. A lot of when it's more competition, we definitely see a whole lot more cash offers come through because it's quicker close and less, you don't have to go through the appraisal and stuff like that. So, or even having cash to gap the appraisals, the appraisal gap waivers. So there is, once again, when there's a lot of competition, there are some additional things that you do have to pay attention to.
Yeah, no, and that's for sure. And by the way, veterans can do the appraisal gap waivers. We do have a whole bunch of classes on that. Loris, what are you thinking for 24? When does it make sense to buy or not to buy?
Yeah, so I think the best thing is definitely looking at your budget just to make sure that it makes sense for you. If the interest rates do go down and you are able to be in a financial position to buy, I would definitely buy. Another thing is if you buy now, you can always refinance in the future, which is something that you definitely want to get on the forefront. So my opinion is to buy now and then refinance before it gets to the point where you do have to overpay. Even when it gets to that point, it's going to be really hard for it to be appraised. And if you don't have the cash to get the appraisal, you may lose out on that property. So I know what I did too is I took advantage of the lower interest rates, but they did change the 4 unit availability. At that time, they moved it up to 20%, and with the VA, it's still 0%, regardless of the amount. So I took advantage of that. So I timed the market, and I was like, "This is going to be perfect. I'm going to be able to get a good deal on this property." And I snagged it up, and I got paid
Yeah.
$144 to buy the property. A matter of fact, last year, our team closed out close to $300,000 of seller concessions, and another close to $200,000 under ask or above appraisal value. So this just shows that that's definitely taking advantage as soon as possible of the market would be ideal.
Yeah. But that goes away once it becomes very competitive. Like that's the thing. So yes, we're in the business. No, it's not like something that we're saying like do it because it's in our advantage. It's literally just like you have to look at it from a like kind of stepping back and looking at the whole piece and saying like where does this fit, right? If it's cheaper, like I'll give you a good example. And let's say in Arlington, Virginia, to rent a 3 bedroom, 2 bath townhouse is about 4,000 a month. To buy a home for that same uh, style, the mortgage payment's about 6,000 a month, right? So sometimes it's a decision of okay, hey, I'm going to be renting because it is cheaper for me and I don't have the additional funds to pay. But then if you do have the funds to pay and you want that stability, that's when these kind of things come in. And one of the main factor of, or the influences your decision to buy, is going to be your budget and your credit, right? If you don't budget, and then, Lourdes, I thought of this today. It's called the gray zone, where you have people that are like, hey, I have everything written down. This is exactly what I'm going to be doing. And then you have people that just don't care, right? But then you have other folks that are in that gray credit zone where they're like, yeah, I check it once in a while. I don't really follow the budget, but I'm doing okay, right? That's where you kind of have to eliminate that piece and really focus in on, where do you need to be financially from a monthly perspective to be comfortable, because when you buy a home, there's a lot that goes into that. We did have a question that just came through. So, do you pay a non tax when you're 100% paying the property tax exempt? Also, New Jersey says an exemption for property tax. You don't have. So, for the property taxes themselves, if that place is exempt from paying property taxes, then you're not going to be paying property taxes on the property, right? But that is going to be state specific. But you still have to pay transfer taxes. So this recently came up today, where a veteran was purchasing a property. They're exempt from paying property taxes. They won't be paying property taxes, but they still have to pay transfer taxes, which were pretty significant. So thank you for that question. And Dwayne, thank you so much for the shout out. Thank you. We continue to help the veteran community with as much information as possible to be able to, help the community that's out there. So hopefully that answers that question. And Lourdes, what relationship have you really seen? Like, I talked a lot about the rates in talking about the budget. Where do you see that dynamic between the interest rate and the real estate when it comes to your to your market?
Well, we have seen, like I said, a lot of buyers when the interest rate's really high. We saw buyers just exit the market. When I'm running the numbers, and they, because once again, I always ask them, like, what is your budget? What is your budget? So now they're saying, like, what is the monthly payment, and is this okay or not? So when they're seeing that something is, more expensive to purchase than to rent, that took a lot of people out of the market right there. They were like, there's no way. Like, I'd rather just rent and wait for these interest rates to go down. However, when that happens, there, once again, we go back to the competition. Right now, there's not a lot of competition because there's not 20, 30 people going for the same house as before. Now there is a lot less. Now there's one or two offers on the table. And some properties, I did see the multi-units, those have not let out. Those have still been very competitive. And those that are sitting there, they definitely have like some issues with it. So another thing that you do have to worry about is the deferred maintenance when you're looking at some of these properties. So there's not a lot of inventory on the market right now, what we have. And when you're going in there and there's today I toured a property, it needs new windows, it needs new roof, it needs these things. This stuff adds up. And if you don't have the cash, even though you're getting a good deal on it, but if you don't have the cash to fix this in the near future when it needs to be replaced, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So that's another thing that you also have to look at and put in your budget. Okay, I need a new furnace. It's going to cost me $3,000. Do I have the $3,000 set aside? Do I have these things set aside for that? So when we see the interest rates high, budget, for the home is a lot higher. Deferred maintenance also too is not. It's like all coincides. So that's one of the things that you do have to put in there is any type of deferred maintenance. And then if the interest rates go down 2 points, if they're at 8% and they're projected to go down to 5%, is that payment going to be okay for you? Is that going to be fine? And then also pay attention to the taxes. Is it going to be a reassessment year? Are the taxes going to go up? Are you in a state that allows, like if you are 100% I know anything over 70% in the state of Illinois does. You don't have to pay property taxes as long as it's not over $250,000 equalized assessed value. So that's something with the state of Illinois specifically. They don't have that. And are they going to change that? Will that go away ever? Every single year, and a lot of people don't know this, but every single year the EAV, which is 258,000, it's going down in valuation. When 2 years ago it was close to 900,000, now it's close to 800,000, and then who knows what it's going to be next year. So it keeps going down, but the valuations of the houses keep going up. In some
Right.
counties, some counties, they're going to, anything over $250,000 equalized assessed value, they don't give you any exemption. Cook County does, which is great. But anything that's outside of that, you also have to pay attention to. So do you have the budget set aside for those taxes as well? If you do have to pay them and you haven't been paying them for the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's a excellent point, Lourdes. There's what you have to understand with the VA disability component, which I learned recently this because I've always worked. So we primarily know we work across the country, but we know Illinois well. So that's why we're using that as an example. So Cook County is where Chicago proper, you can say, is located, and they give a differential, right? But then you have like Lake County and the surrounding counties that say, yeah, if you're over 250, you get zero exemption. Where Cook County again says, oh, it's the equalized value is 300,000, you get exemption. Yes, you pay taxes on 50,000, right? So that's why it's so important that when you're making that decision to buy a property, you understand that there's state laws, which Illinois has a blanket state law. And then each county took that law and said, well, we're going to adjust it a little bit to fit what we want to do. And that's what happened. So you have to also watch that because there's also talks about getting rid of that exemption. So when you think about one, you should be following the politics around that because that can come up and bite you in the rear. The other piece to that is to be involved in the community, to be able to be a champion of that. And then the third thing is that knowing those limits, right? Because some places like Illinois has a 250 equalized value, but it doesn't have a minimum acreage requirement. But let's say in Arlington, Virginia, it's $1 million and 5 acres, and anything more than that, you won't get your exemption. Then you go to like Maryland, where they have, hey, we don't care what property value or land you have, you get the exemption at 100% permanent and total. Illinois is 70% or higher, which is unusual. Everywhere else to get a tax break is 100% permanent and total. So just kind of keep all of that in mind when you're making that decision. And that kind of leads me, Lourdes, great into more of that savings component, right? Throughout the year, I think we're doing April. I think we're doing in April, we're doing a home improvement series, right? The whole month. Like, so this month is credit and budgeting. Next month is PCSing. March is going to be talking about VA disability. So for all the veterans out there that, are hesitating to go get that done, do it. Like Lourdes and I have both put it off before, and it's something that you definitely need to do because there's a lot of advantages to that, especially if there's definitely something wrong, right? So savings is a big component, and it's not required for a VA loan, right? If you have enough money for closing costs, whatever they may be, and they range anywhere from 1% to 4% of a purchase price. I used to say 2 to 3, but I've seen it skew widely now. In some states, closing costs are really low, and in other states, they're extremely high. And it's not, we're not even talking about lender fees, in which, if you're working with some of the big lenders that are out there, please stop doing that because they overcharge like crazy. So just kind of, those are, again, some things to keep in mind. Savings can be in a form of a couple different things, right? A lot of times people have a savings account where they save money on a monthly basis from their paycheck. Some people have their 401ks that they have that you can't always liquidate, which, again, talk to an accountant on something like that because there's definitely tax implications. But you can also get like a hardship loan against your own money. But again, a 401k should be something that you set aside, saving on a monthly basis so you have money in the event something happens, or getting insurance that helps you mitigate a loss is important, right? You want to be able to do, you'd have like, let's say, a home warranty or something like that that's going to be in place, that you want money. Because too oftentimes we'll see somebody buy a home and liquidate all their savings. Now they're kind of living month to month, and if something comes up, how do you do that, right? That's why, it's important to get a proper pre-approval where you are actually, all your documents are reviewed by somebody, a loan officer. Again, you guys can reach out to us. Like, we're licensed in all 50 states, and we can also help you with connecting with realtors across the country. We have that ability to do that, right? That pre-approval you should be doing as far out from your actual purchase as possible. Sometimes people come to us actually recently saying, hey, I'm a year out from buying a property. That's great. That's when you want to check stuff, because we want to identify, are you set up for what you want to do? Do you want to get a remote job? I want to switch jobs. I just got my disability, or I'm going to be getting my disability. How does that affect my mortgage? I'm transitioning out of the military. How much do I need to make to buy what I want to buy? I'm self-employed. If you're self-employed, you definitely need to talk to somebody ahead of time to be able to review your documents. Otherwise, you won't be able to qualify. Lourdes, I know you're laughing because, it was a journey, right? And that goes for all the self-employed people I know. 3 years, right? But it happened, right? Patience, persistence, focusing on your financial wellness opens the door to more opportunity. The better your credit is, the more money you make, because you get better deals, 0% interest on credit cards. You get the best financing terms. You pay the lowest interest. I'm sounding like a commercial right now, but like it's true. You get the best of the best. And income isn't driven here, right? You have people that make $1 million that have horrible credit. You have people that make 20,000 have perfect credit. The people that make, again, it's credit driven, not income driven. It's just if you overspend and go beyond what you can do, that's how you get lates, and then you have all types of issues with that. Why are you laughing, Lourdes?
It's true. Yeah, I thought 600 was like cool. Like, let me just get that 640. But things started to change when I was in the 800s, and
Right.
or 799 when you run my credit. But yeah, that was definitely had all the good things, except I was 1099, and
Yeah.
being 1099 was very difficult. Even when I showed that I made decent amount of money, they're like, well, how do we know you're gonna make this next year? And then I had to show the file. I mean, I had to jump through hoops, and it did take me 3 years to get my dream building, my 4-unit. And I called David on every little thing, and definitely talk to someone who can advise you properly. He even helped me look at my taxes and all kinds of stuff. But it's critical that you do get advice on what to do for credit purposes, because it's just going to propel you. It's going to take you to that next level, and you don't have to really settle. And then also understanding your budget.
Right. And and you made a good point with that, Lourdes, is talk with somebody. It's not therapy, but sometimes it feels like it. The thing is that what you want to be able to focus around on that is, you got to find someone, and it's easy to say, but it's sometimes hard to execute, is you got to have somebody you can trust. And I know, don't get tricked by commercials. It's basically what I'm saying. Okay. There's a lot of these companies that are either veteran friendly, and then it's just all marketing. And then you're talking to someone that has no clue what they're doing, and you're putting your lives in their hands. Same thing with these credit companies. They just want your money to be able to just say like, hey, this is what, we can do for you. Yeah. Sometimes they do work. Sometimes they do some short, like these short fixes that end up, reversing, and then your credit's bad again. At the end of the day, gonna go back to budgeting fixes all of that, because then you're not overspending, or you got to just look at your options. If you just purely make less than how much you spend, there's going to be alternatives that you might have to look at, unfortunately, to be able to liquidate some of that debt. So you're not putting yourself in a bad position, right?
Yeah. I mean, recently I sat with one of my clients, and I was like, write all this stuff out. Oh, I'm gonna do it online. I'm like, no, you have to write it physically. Write it. When you start to see it, it's a game changer. I have things, I look at it on a monthly basis and I'm like, why am I spending this much money on this? So I do
Right.
see it go up, and then I'm able to calculate my actual take home money from that, because I am 1099. But even on a regular, you're going to start to cut back so many things, and you'll be able to put yourself on a better budget to do that. I remember when I was in the running for the building, I was like, okay, I got to make this much money on paper, meaning all my expenses can't be more than a certain amount. I have to show that I make this much money. And then I remember you were telling me I was going to go buy a car. I was like, do I pay cash or do I finance? You're like, no, you got to save your cash. I'm like, oh, I didn't know why. But knowing the specifics of what you're trying to accomplish, I think is huge. And asking those questions. I know we had a question about the tax exemptions. Like, if that were to go away, are you still going to be okay? Because nothing is ever set in stone. And we got a scare, I want to say last year, that it may go away for here. I'm like, oh my God, I'm be screwed if my taxes have to be property taxes.
Well, they're
I'm also
crazy.
disabled
Yeah.
veteran. Yeah. But am I going to be okay? Yes, I'm going to be okay, thankfully. But it's gonna, I may have to move out of there to do that. But yeah, it will be okay. But you do have to put those budgets and really sit down and are you paying for Hulu, Netflix, all these entertainment things? Is that really necessary? What do you use? What do you not use? And just sitting down and really putting that out on paper and seeing what's going to be good. Are you currently paying, $1,200 in rent right now, but your mortgage payment is going to be close to $5,000? Can you support that additional $4,000? Is that going to make sense for you? And, as far as, is your budget aligned with your criteria as well? So that's something that you definitely have to pay attention to.
Amen to that. And the thing is, too, when you're buying a bigger property, you're going to be paying more in utilities. So and that can be an insane shocker, because some places have outdated utilities, or like the HVAC system is old, and you would be blown away how much you're going to be paying. And so that might be some additional things that might need to do that. Oh, we got a shout out here to the Marine Corps. I got Simplify. That's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. So, well, thank you, Lourdes, for everything. We definitely went over a lot of insights. And remember, guys, please share, like, and subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff over the next 12 months, actually in life, throughout life. But this year is going to be an exciting year for us to grow. So please share information, and we'll talk to you guys soon. You guys have a great evening.